Good day and welcome to the Impact of Digital Wallets on Cardholder Spending call. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, I'd like to turn the conference over to Mr. Saad Alam. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules today to join us for this webinar. My name is Saad Alam, and I'm the Director of Digital Payments Product Marketing here at MasterCard. For the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be sharing some insightful results from research conducted by our MasterCard Advisors group. Information that hopefully you'll find very useful to your overall digital wallet strategy and business. Now, if you joined us last year, you'll notice two main differences this time around. First, this year we speak about cardholder spending, not just consumer spending. That's because this year we've added analysis on small business segment, and in addition to that, we've also added a layered insight into debit analysis. So we will cover a great deal of material in a very short period of time. But at the end of our presentation, we will open it up to a discussion. And you'll be able to use the chat function on your screen to ask any questions you may have. With that, I'm very excited to introduce you to two members of the MasterCard Advisors team, two of the folks who led the research for today's discussion, Thomas and Sanjeev, who will walk us through the process today. Tom, Sanjeev, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Hi, everyone. This is Thomas Berart. I'm with the MasterCard Advisors team. I've been with the company about a year now, and I'm joined by Sanjeev Verma.
Hi, everyone. This is Sanjeev Verma from MasterCard Advisors on the consulting team, and really excited to present the study today. We worked very hard on this, and I think we've got some exciting results.
Great. So we're really happy to be here and talk about a real hot-button topic that is an important part of the payments landscape and our industry today. As Saad mentioned, this is about digital wallets, or specifically about the impact that digital wallets can have on a financial institution's revenue by increasing overall cardholder spend. We know that some can be skeptical or even apprehensive regarding digital wallets, but what we're going to show today will ultimately confirm that offering and promoting a digital wallet can enhance ROI. So here's how we're going to walk through and structure today's presentation. First off, we'll cover the underlying methodology and scope of the research study so we can fully understand how we arrived at the conclusions and the insights that we'll be presenting. After this, we'll dive straight into the insights themselves within the areas you see listed here to show you how they have an impact on cardholder spend and therefore on your bottom line revenue. We'll discuss the wallet spend versus total card spend, the frequency of card use, the spend categories, as well as some consumer and small business segmentation. Along the way, we will provide you with some key opportunities for your business, and we're also going to be offering some actionable pointers to help you enhance your digital wallet strategy. Lastly, we're going to move into some Q&A where myself and the rest of the MasterCard team will work to answer any questions you may have. So firstly, let's just set the stage by reviewing the study's methodology. So the study covered the digital wallet landscape from November 2016 to October 2017, and it covered the credit and debit portfolios for both consumer and small business. Consumer and small business figures were calculated independent of each other. So in short, if an individual had a consumer credit card or consumer debit card, they would be separated from the small business consumer and credit. The small business credit and debit. And just to help us delineate between the credit and debit, because we will be going back and forth a bit, we've highlighted credit in orange and the debit in green. So if you're ever not sure about the numbers that you're seeing, just pay attention to the colors and it'll help you get back on the right track. So to identify the impact that digital wallets had on spend, we created test and control groups. The test group was digital wallet users consisting of a representative sample of U.S. consumer and small business credit and debit cards that had been enrolled in a digital wallet, such as Apple Pay, Android Pay, or Samsung Pay. The control group were the non-wallet users. So this group was composed of holders of U.S. consumer small business credit and debit cards that had not been enrolled in a digital wallet, but that did exhibit similar spend patterns to the card in the test group during this period prior to wallet adoption. So these groups were nearly identical based on their spend volume and the spend frequency. So in essence, what we've done here is just took a look at two groups of nearly identical cards where the main difference is the adoption of a digital wallet. By doing this, we largely isolated the impact that the adoption of a digital wallet could have. So going back to the timeline of the study, all the cards in the study were analyzed over a continuous 12-month period, and we divided this period into 3 4-month sub-periods. And you can see them on the screen now. The first was the pre-period, the 4-month period prior to the first wallet transaction. Then the card was entered into a digital wallet and transacted using that digital wallet. Then we move into the wallet period. And this is the 4-month period, including and immediately after that first wallet transaction. After we have that 4-month wallet period, we move into the final period, which is the post period. This is, again, the 4-month period, 4 months after that first wallet transaction. And I also want to point out that these periods are unique for each cardholder based on the date of their first digital wallet transaction, which would signal the beginning of their wallet period. What this means is that since wallet adoption dates and therefore the timeframes are going to be different for every card that we're looked at, we're able to deseasonalize the data to remove any anomalies in the data around the winter holidays, for example. So if we were concerned that individuals might have a spike in spend around the holidays when people are purchasing gifts for each other, because the timelines are different for every card, we're able to mitigate that. And just another quick note, we're not going to be showing any dollar values in the presentation today. Instead, we're going to be using a spend index to show lift as a percentage of that baseline pre-period. Last thing before we begin, keep in mind that these results are inclusive of many different institutions. And so there's naturally going to be a bit of variation between the results that we're going to be reviewing today, as well as those of the specific institutions themselves. So now that we've established a bit of context for the findings, let's dive into these results to see what we've uncovered. Let's start off with some of the exciting results for the consumer credit cards that we tracked. This is the first set of data that is really going to matter to you. So here's our rolling 12-month period, again divided into those 4-month cycles. That 100% on the left is going to represent wallet adopters' baseline spend prior to entering their card in a digital wallet. So if you look forward into the wallet period, you're going to see that the total card spend for the average consumer credit card entered into a digital wallet increased by 20% above that pre-period baseline. So essentially what this means is if an individual is spending $100 before they adopt a wallet, in the next period, they were spending $120. So we also saw that these cards exhibited a sustained increase of 9% during the post period. Keep in mind that this post period starts 4 months after cardholders first began using the digital wallet. So we can see that wallet's effect is slightly diminished. The digital wallet still has a great potential to drive card spend over a longer period of time. So these results will not always just disappear. What's even more interesting is that we noticed there was a huge opportunity for everyone. That's not just because of that 20% lift, but of that 20% lift, 83% of it can be attributed to spend not using a digital wallet. So the implications of this means that adopting a digital wallet really has a holistic effect on driving total card spend rather than digital wallets cannibalizing the currently existing channels. So now we're going to move on to some similar results that we found for consumer debit cards. So we also saw some comparable results for the average consumer debit wallet user. Looking closely, we can clearly see that during the wallet period, spend for the average wallet user increased by 16%. Again, we saw a sustained increase in cardholder spend of 7% during the post period. That's, again, more than 4 months after the card was first entered into a digital wallet. Again, similar to the average consumer credit card user, credit wallet user, 76% of this lift in spend following the adoption of the wallet can actually be attributed to spend on traditional cards at point of sale and e-commerce outside of this wallet use. So I also want to point out that this works to dispel this misconception that I think a lot of people have, that digital wallets are not really well suited for debit and that credit is the only beneficiary of adoption. The results that we saw during the study really provide a counterargument to this, as we've seen that the digital wallets did have a substantial impact on the debit cards in our study. So now that we've covered the impact on consumer credit and consumer debit, let's flip to the next slide to see a comparison to the small business. So here we're showing the consumer results that we just covered. But we also want to look at the differences in consumer spend versus small business spend, with consumer on top and the small business on the bottom. Small business cards still showed a sizable lift after adopting a digital wallet, similar to consumer portfolios. This again highlights that digital wallets should not be limited to consumer, and encouraging wallet adoption among small business cardholders can still provide a value add. We saw the average small business credit wallet user experience a sustained increase of 12% during the post period versus a 2% increase for the average small business debit wallet user. This may indicate that the small business credit owners actually have a greater affinity for using digital wallets with their credit card versus their debit card long term. But if there's one takeaway from what we're showing here, it's that we want to show that across consumer or small business, credit and debit, there's still a lift in spend across the board following digital wallet adoption. So digital wallet adoption actually increases total card engagement by creating this new channel for spend, and it's also driving incremental spend volumes on the card overall. On top of this, just remember that this lift is not just a cannibalization of existing spend, and it's really a genuine multi-channel increase. Digital wallet adoption actually has the ability to supplement traditional channels for card spend. By driving not just digital wallet usage, but total card engagement overall, we think that digital wallets really have the power to drive the associated card that's been entered into the digital wallet to top of wallet. Now, we just want to go back to our graphics because there's something else that we'd like to show you. What we're seeing here is the difference between the wallet period and the post-period lift for all the groups we tested. We've already focused quite a bit about the percentage increases during the wallet period. Let's take a look at this drop that occurs during the post-period. We're seeing in some cases a steep drop-off between the wallet period and the post-period lift, and there could be a number of reasons for this, right? This could be the result of the end of a promotional incentive. It could be the result of limited merchant acceptance of digital wallets. Consumers could even be having one negative checkout experience, which completely discourages them from transacting again in the future. But we think this drop in the post period can actually be spawned as a sizable opportunity for financial institutions to really take a look at the bigger picture by renewing their focus on the customer journey for digital wallet users during this post-period phase. So this is going to mean developing a lifecycle strategy that deploys promotional offers, incenting multiple purchases, and not just a one-time spend and get strategy. Actually, just by doing this, it can promote long-term usage and sustain the lift that you're seeing in the wallet period and extend that into the post period. By the way, just to help you do that, you have access to free turnkey materials on MastercardOptimizations.com, and you can customize these solutions to your liking. We'll be sending out a link for the site after we wrap up today as well. But let's keep going because we have some other things that we want to share. So I think at this point, I'm actually going to hand it off to Sanjeev, and he'll take it from here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. And as everyone knows, we produced this study last year as well, so we're really happy that we got pretty similar results across the board. So I'll take a look at the next KPI we looked at, which is looking at the frequency at which a wallet user uses their card, and then what's the lift in spend. So what we found here is that the figures showing the breakdown of the post-period lift showed that the digital wallet users who used the wallet most frequently had the greatest lift in spend. So the one and done segment on the left here, you can see that they did not experience a significant sustained lift in the post-period. So this is a place where targeted messaging to this segment following their first wallet transaction could really help ensure continued transactions after the initial interest in the wallet phase. So while the low-frequency wallet users showed a small net increase of 2 to 4% here in total card spend, the high-frequency group, on the other hand, actually experienced a very significant 25 to 31% lift. Meanwhile, the intermediate frequency group also performed very well with a 10 to 14% lift in net spend during the post period. The sustained lift in these post periods show that frequent use of a digital wallet creates long-term stickiness to the card. So of course, this represents yet another opportunity, and that is to focus on the frequent digital wallet users, because they're the ones in particular who spend far more than non-wallet users do. Again, driving that consistent repeat usage of the wallet can magnify the lift that cardholders exhibit. Now let's just take a look. So this is the consumer side. So I'll now just flip over to the small business on the next slide here. And as you'll see, the stickiness also is being produced over on the small business side as well. So similar to the results we saw on the last page, the size of the lift was closely linked to how often the tracked card, the provision card in the wallet, was utilized. So we also saw that the one and done segment, again, does not exhibit a strong spend increase after adopting the wallet. So to reiterate, this is the segment really that needs the improved messaging during those first 4 months during the wallet period. So after they initially adopt the wallet, targeted messaging to this segment could help produce stronger spend. While the low frequency wallet users did, and that's the first bar on the left here, while they showed the marginal uptick, we see that the credit counterparts of the debit users actually had a 12% lift in total card spend. And as expected, the highest frequency users of both credit and debit wallets saw the largest increase, between 18 and 30% between credit and debit during the post period. Now this sustained lift, if we exclude these low frequency wallet users in the post period, shows that encouraging cardholders to leverage the digital wallet to make more transactions per month can have a serious impact on total card spend. And that's on both small business and consumer, and both credit and debit. Great, so now we understand that we should focus on the most frequent users of a digital wallet. But it begs the question, how can we maximize the sustained usage? We're going to need support. We're going to need to support a solid wallet lifecycle that's going to encourage consistent stickiness. If you haven't started, you'll want to jump in as soon as possible, because other financial institutions, as everyone well knows, has already been jockeying for these customers and for the top of wallet position. The advantage you have right now is that you have these free turnkey MasterCard solutions that I mentioned earlier to support you. So if you haven't already implemented your wallet strategy, but aren't using the MasterCard solutions that are available online, you can still put them to work for you at optimization.mastercard.com. The next KPI we wanted to talk about, so just to switch gears a bit here, was to look at where cardholders are actually spending. So as you can see here, this graph basically shows the different categories or industries in which wallet users are spending. These are the top 10 industries. So our study has shown that consumer credit here on this slide, so the consumer credit digital wallet adopters prompted a significant lift in spend across several everyday spend categories. The top 3 categories that experienced the largest gross increase, that is before and after wallet enrollment, were eating places, so restaurants, fast food, quick service, grocery stores, which includes supermarkets, local grocers, and T&E airlines, which would be any travel and entertainment categories, as well as booking flights, etc. So the big opportunity here really is to promote spend at these particular merchants if you're designing a campaign, to design a campaign that promotes spend at merchants in these industries specifically. So now let's just take a look over at the consumer debit side. As we see here, consumer debit digital wallet adoption prompted a significant lift in spend across all the top 10 categories for digital wallet users. Eating places is the largest beneficiary of consumers adopting a digital wallet on their debit card. And the next largest category is cable services or telco, so your phone and your TV, and as well as auto fuel. These 3 categories present possibly the biggest opportunity for financial institutions. In addition, the categories such as general retailers, which is composed of large online retailers such as Amazon, as well as the financial services over here and accommodations, that is hotels, exhibited the largest increase in spend. So the net increase is 25%, 24%, and 22%, as you can see there. Great. So now I'm just going to flip over to the small business and show the top industries for the small business credit wallet users. So again, we see that digital wallet adoption was correlated to higher overall spend volumes in the top 10 industries, in all top 10 industries, as you can see. And the top 3 categories for small business credit wallet users were eating places, grocery stores, and T&E airlines. So very, very similar, right, to the consumer credit wallet users. Again, it would do as well to shift our attention to these specific sectors when designing a campaign targeted at wallet users. Great. And so just to wrap it up on this KPI, we'll look at the small business debit wallet users. And again, a higher overall volume of spend is being recorded in the top 10 industries. And the top 3 categories that experienced the largest gross increase before and after wallet enrollment were eating places, wholesale trade, which is obviously very pertinent for the small business cardholders, as well as telco and cable services. So here, the above industries that are big for us and represent the most opportunity for financial institutions to increase volume and transactions. Great. So we know now that the consumer credit and debit digital wallet users tend to spend more in everyday spend categories. But you'll be interested to know that actually the majority of digital wallet users also fall into a high-value customer segment, where we see greater spend volumes and frequency, higher annual spend, and a wider breadth of visited merchant categories. So a very healthy consumer portfolio. In short, almost half of credit wallet users have widespread high spend. And this is important because these high-value segments account for approximately 45% of all consumer digital wallet users. They fall into this active, high-value spend category. I also want to call out this is also the case for debit, and 45% of the consumer debit wallet users also are considered highly active. Again, this works to dispel the argument that digital wallets are only useful when applied to credit cards. So in comparison to the small business cardholders, so first looking at the small business credit. The small business credit wallet users also fall into these high-value segments, where we see greater spend volume and frequency, higher annual spend, and wider merchant category breadth. This is important because they actually account for 58% of all small business digital wallet users. In contrast, as a result of higher credit card usage, small business debit wallet users are typically less attached. 35% of all small business debit cardholders fall into the high-value small business segment. And 25% actually, it's very interesting, fall into the seasonal segment, which means they transact only during select months of the year. This intermittent behavior of the seasonal small business debit wallet users demonstrates another opportunity for issuers to engage their digital wallet users. The wallet could be used as a tool to reach out to these individuals and could augment existing campaigns aimed at driving more consistent debit card usage throughout the year. Great, so now just doing a deep dive on these. So in that vein, this represents another golden opportunity for financial institutions because digital wallets provide a pathway for you to engage and also re-engage these high-value affluent customers in your portfolio. So what do we know about them specifically, about their behaviors, where they spend, and how they spend? Here we have on this slide just a few of the insights pulled from MasterCard's advanced buyer segments. Another useful set of solutions that can help you with your wallet strategy. So for the consumer credit wallet users here on the left, we see that club store goers and auto tinkerers, these segments provide issuers with an ideal target for outreach. They spend across a limited breadth of categories and make up a large share of total spend. So even though their spend is concentrated in just a few industries, they're actually spending quite a bit in terms of absolute volume. So 64% to be precise, right? Now, club store goers are individuals that spend high on bulk consumer goods, such as Costco or Sam's Club. And auto tinkerers, on the other hand, tend to have high spend on maintenance services, particularly auto shops and auto parts. Now, looking at their counterparts here on the debit side, we see the nightlifers and also, again, the auto tinkerers segments provide issuers with an ideal target for outreach as well. They, too, spend across a limited breadth of industries and make up a large share of total spend, actually 43% to be precise. And nightlifers are the heavy spenders at bars, liquor stores, and restaurants. And as you might imagine, they tend to skew younger overall. So similarly, the small business credit wallet users, so on the small business side, we see that the spend is heavily concentrated among a few segments. Also, again, providing you an opportunity to target and attract and engage these high-value customers. So the small business credit wallet users, we see the club store goers and auto tinkerers here. These segments provide the ideal target for outreach. They spend across a limited breadth of categories and make up a large share of total value, 71% of spend among small business cardholders. As for small business debit wallet users on the right, unlike the past three cases we've seen, these individuals are actually distributed in a wider range of segments based on spend intensity and industry breadth, potentially making them a bit more difficult to target. It could provide a challenge to any blanket campaign or outreach strategy, and instead indicates that these individuals may benefit from a more bespoke approach that targets their unique and individual needs and spend patterns. So these top segments among small business debit are club store goers, value shoppers, and auto tinkerers. And these segments are the ones that should be prioritized, specifically due to the higher than expected ROI. Value shoppers are the new addition here, actually, and consist of the more thrifty spenders who primarily focus on discount stores. Therefore, it only makes sense to seek out these affluent segments and make them a priority for increasing your ROI. Great. So, we've covered a lot of ground today, so I'd like to summarize the key opportunities that you as a financial institution can take advantage of in the digital wallet space. So first of all, the key opportunities, just to recap, are one, integrating your wallet strategy in the overall card lifecycle communications with marketing materials that are both timely and relevant, especially for those seasonal cardholders. Be sure to target the high-value, high-spend cardholders who are already making e-commerce transactions or are already digitally active. Then, focus on the everyday spend and T&E to encourage transactions at the most relevant merchant locations within the first 4 months of wallet adoption. As we saw, that was very crucial that the initial engagement be strong. On an overall note, digital should be a core element of your overall cardholder engagement strategy. It's not just about a shift of form factor from plastic to a digital wallet. It's about influencing behaviors that drive incremental card spend. So just remember, you have access to these free turnkey solutions right now live at optimization.mastercard.com. And on top of that, MasterCard can provide actionable guidance that can help you achieve adoption and optimize it with the following. First, we've got discovery and wallet development. This is where we conduct a capabilities diagnostic and a current state analysis of your digital capabilities in order to help you develop eventually a bank-branded wallet and then incorporate value-added features to strengthen your offering. Then we can help you with your cardholder lifecycle strategy by taking a closer look at segmentation and channels to discover the right path for you. Third, we have custom campaign execution capabilities. This is where you'll have access to tailored or turnkey marketing solutions that will let you execute across multiple channels with reporting and analytics on campaign performance. And of course, we'll help you maintain operational excellence with assistance ranging from branch and channel training to benchmarking your digital wallet's performance against the industry competition. So with that, I want to say thank you and turn it over to Saad.
All right. Hey, Thomas and Sanjeev, thank you so much. Data-driven insights like this really hold a great deal of value, especially when you consider the sheer volume of the opportunity that may exist for any given issuer. And I know we covered a lot today for both the consumer side and the small business side, for credit and for debit. So not surprisingly, there are some questions that have started coming in that we can start to take a look at now. And at this time, I'll once again just invite the audience to go ahead and type your questions into the box on the lower left-hand side. Seems like we've been doing that throughout the presentation, which is great. And while we wait for a few more of those to come in, I do want to mention that we will have a variety of resources available to you after this webinar, including the recording of the webinar, a downloadable infographic for the consumer segment analysis. We will have 2 interactive infographics, links that we will send you, so you can kind of play around and see what the high-level overview was of the analysis here. And we will have a white paper coming your way in the next few weeks as well. So again, a lot of this will be covered, a lot of the credit, debit, small business, and consumer information that we just covered today will be available in more downloadable on-demand formats as well. So with that, let's dive into a couple of these questions. Thomas and Sanjeev, just right off the bat, I think there were a few clarification questions on the methodology. Let's just make sure we give the audience a clear understanding of what we're working with here, right? So in terms of the different periods that we talked about, right? The pre-period, the wallet period, and the post-period. Can you just once again define what it means to enter the wallet period? Is that essentially when a card has been provisioned in the wallet, or is it more when a card that has been provisioned in the wallet is being used for the first time?
Sure, I can take that one. So we're defining wallet users as individuals who made wallet transactions. So it's about making that actual purchase with your digital wallet rather than actually provisioning your card in the digital wallet. To that end, I know, Saad, you mentioned that there were a few questions on the timeline of things. So with regards to how that wallet transaction plays a role in that timeline, it essentially acts as a trigger. So when we were looking for these individuals, we tapped individuals, or rather cards, that transacted using a digital wallet, and then we flagged that if it transacted during our time frame of October 2016 to November 2017, counting backwards 4 months from that first wallet transaction, that's what we defined as the pre-period. Then counting forward 4 months from that transaction, that became the wallet period, and then we went 4 months past that, and that became our post period. Angie, feel free to.
So essentially, just want to clarify again. So essentially, the 0 to 4 months, if you want to simplify it, high level, would be kind of the pre-period. 4 to 8 months would be the wallet period, and 8 to 12 months would be the post period. Again, with 0 to 4 months, those individuals had not transacted at that point using a wallet.
Exactly.
Sanjeev, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that covers it. And one thing I just add is that we also made sure that when selecting these wallet users, that we looked at wallet users who were new cardholders and also older cardholders to ensure that we had a representative distribution across the board, including financial institutions throughout the U.S. Right, we've got a very representative sample of the market here.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And so the next question, why are we only showing percentages versus gross dollars, dollar amounts when you're talking about index versus dollar amounts?
Right. So that's actually more of a data privacy concern. So we can't show the dollar amounts because it contains information from multiple different institutions. And that's just something that we're not willing and unable to share without their express permission. So instead, to get around this and still show the impact that digital wallets have, we converted it into just an index with a percentage list. And again, that's not transactions, that's in dollar amounts.
Yeah, and I would just add to that this is because this is a composite study of all financial institutions. If any particular issuer or financial institution is interested in taking a look at their portfolio, we'd be happy to share absolute dollar volumes, transaction volumes, merchant categories, et cetera.
So one of the other questions that came in was around the frequency of usage and the stickiness. Sanjeev, I think you mentioned, and you went over this, that even the low-frequency credit wallet users showed a sustained lift. Is that correct? And what can we take away from that?
Yeah, that's right. So what we see is that the low-frequency group experience a marginal increase in spend that's being sustained in the post period. But where we see the most significant opportunity really is after we get these wallet users over that initial hurdle of making 1 or 2 wallet transactions to becoming a part of the medium and high frequency group. That's where issuers will find the biggest ROI. I remember we just showed this slide. It was up to 40% for certain wallet users that are in the high frequency group. So it's really about escalating them from the low frequency group to the high frequency group, which can be accomplished through marketing, campaigns, life cycle strategy, et cetera.
Yeah, I would actually build on that a little bit. I would say that when we're thinking about outreach to these individuals, it goes back to identifying what segments wallet users largely fall into. So, for example, if they're club store goers, you're going to want to tailor promotions around their current behavior rather than trying to push them into a box where they're not naturally going to go.
So for those who might be wondering and perhaps they've done some sort of internal analysis and haven't similar lift in their portfolios for digital wallet users, why are they perhaps seeing different results, and what can they do to learn a little bit more about their own portfolios?
So I think the foundation of any strategy begins with analytics. So first, getting a deep and thorough understanding of how your portfolio is behaving, who's using the digital wallets and who's not. And then for those who are using it, how are they using it? Are they running into issues with provisioning? We see with some issuers that sometimes the biggest obstacle can just be getting the users to provision their card, right? And then after provisioning successfully, being able to use the card. And sometimes this will involve, incenting a user through an incentive campaign or just educating them through communications and messaging. So I'd say that it really starts with analytics, and then from there, an issuer can build their strategy.
Okay, we're just waiting for a couple more questions to come in. All right. Thomas and Sanjeev, do you have any other anything else you want to add, or any other questions you would like to address at this point?
No, I think I'm pretty much good. I'd just like to thank everyone who took the time out of their day to kind of hear about the study that we did and the work that we're doing. So thank you, everyone.
Agreed. Thank you, everyone. It was hopefully a valuable presentation to all those on the line. Again, if you are looking for support and would like to learn a little bit more about your own portfolios and do some analysis with MasterCard, you can go to mastercardadvisors.com, or of course reach out to your MasterCard account rep, who will be happy to help you kind of navigate this not so easy market landscape around digital wallets. But I think it's obvious that you can't ignore the digital wallets, and digital wallets have become a critical part of most issuers, if not all issuers' strategies at this point. So again, thank you all, and have a great rest of the day.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude today's webinar, and thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect.